Yo, 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 we are back with chapter 29, section 3. We are on talking about identity politics and militant movements. These will be revolutions of the 60s, connected to all this other stuff we've been talking about, music and generation and conflict. But each one of these different movements will have some sort of protest of their status in society. So first we're going to talk about the movement of nonviolence towards violent protest in the civil rights movement for African Americans, and this is known as Black Power. This philosophy emerges after the 1965 year, and as the SNCC and SCLC and CORE use nonviolence, there will be a transformation here towards a more militant or violent movement that is Black Power and the Black Panthers. So African Americans could only get better with equality and their status in society through self-help, self-determination, and organizing a direct political influence. That is Black Power, and that's the symbol there with the closed fist raised in the air. Stokely Carmichael is going to change. He's going to lead this revolution or this resistance that switches from nonviolence to violent protests. Let me play Stokely Carmichael here.
Mr. Carmichael, do you see any change in atmosphere in the South? Do you think that we are approaching a more militant or revolutionary stage in the civil rights movement in the South?
Yes, I certainly think so. I think we're moving now into a political arena. And I think that what Negroes are now tampering in, what they're tampering with, will touch the entire country. To be very precise, for example, many Negroes who have registered to vote have been evicted from their lands in Lowndes County. People who have worked on plantations for 35, 40 years, because they've registered to vote, have been evicted. So that raises a philosophical question, not only for us, but for the whole country. Can property-less people be made as equal as property owners through the vote?
Do you think the formation of your party, the Black Panther Party, is perhaps contributing to the change in atmosphere and making it, in fact, more explosive?
Yes, I certainly think so, because this is the first time in the country that Negroes will be organized for their own political interest, and they will form their own party and move along those interests as they see fit. It is unlike Negroes across the country who are registered in the Democratic Party but are not organized for their own interest.
Now, what I don't understand is this. You are also a member of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. At the same time, you are organizing a group in the South which almost certainly will tend to contribute to violence, or at least counter-violence.
Well, they won't contribute to violence. They will just be seeking their political rights, and they will have to defend those rights. Now, they will defend it the way the country defends its own rights, the way we defended it in Vietnam, the way we defended it in World War II, the way we defended it in World War I, the way we're going to defend it in the Dominican Republic, I imagine. They will defend it the same way, violently.
Okay, so that's a little bit about Carmichael, and then the next section we talk about the Panthers here. You'll see some more by him. So Black Power, Stokely Carmichael takes the transformation of Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee into an all-black organization. Okay, so you saw before that there were whites and younger students coming alongside African Americans, and there was that coalition, and that will be transformed into the Black Panthers and Black Power. So that is influenced also by Malcolm X and the Nation of Islam, and even farther back, going into the 20s, with Black Nationalism, Black Pride by Marcus Garvey during the Harlem Renaissance, promoting the history of African American peoples. And that we will see change some of the things that happen on college campuses as Black history and an emphasis on Black studies will become important. Some of the things that they said here, get Whitey, burn baby burn. This is the time where they call cops pigs and all of that you'll see here in the video in just a second as well. So Black Panther Party faces opposition from the authorities. The FBI, under J. Edgar Hoover, claims that they're the biggest threat to internal security within the United States. Black Panthers, according to the FBI director, the biggest threat to the United States. The Vice President calls them a completely irresponsible anarchist group of criminals. So the labels that they get here by the government will lead to what the heavy opposition to them is, and what they try to stop them from being able to grow within their organization and power. So the Black Panther Party develops, and this is an organization, a political entity. Identity politics is they identify as their own political party. And you can see here in the picture the style of which they wear, the berets and the leather jackets. They dress in black and white, and they carry guns, they carry weapons. So it's founded by Huey Newton and Bobby Seale, 1966. Those are the founders of the Black Panther Party. And Stokely Carmichael will be influential in moving that SNCC nonviolent movement out and bringing in the more militant or violent movements in. So you have a combination of black nationalism that we described just a minute ago, and Marxism, which is socialism or communism, Karl Marx. And so this will connect them to communism, and there's some connection of some of these leaders to the Communist Party as well. So that will be another combined fear for the government, as the possibility of some sort of revolution, some sort of war within the United States over different ideologies. They adopt the strategy of armed self-defense combined with community programs, and we'll describe what these community programs are here in the video. Okay, here you go. This is Stokely Carmichael again at the beginning.
That everybody is so afraid about. Here you are talking about you afraid of violence, and the honky drafted you out of school to go fight in Vietnam. You're going to sit in front of your television set and listen to LBJ tell you that violence never accomplishes anything, my fellow Americans. You ought to tell them clear, if you don't want any trouble, keep your filthy white hands off our beautiful black children.
In the streets of Oakland, a few miles from the Berkeley campus, the Black Panthers came forward as the cutting edge of black power. Their militancy had a magnetic effect on the student movement.
We want the Panthers to be our friends. We want to follow their lead.
Bobby Seale and Huey Newton formed the Black Panther Party in the fall of '66. They drew up a 10-point platform addressing community needs from education to housing. The most pressing issue was police violence against Oakland's black community. The Panthers decided to arm themselves and patrol the police.
When we patrol the police, people might imagine we were right behind a police car. No, we might be 4 or 5 blocks away. We just drive to the community, and if we see the police arresting somebody, we were going to get out of the car with our shotguns, tape recorders, law books. By this time, we got about 6 or 7 members doing this. All of us got guns. How we got our guns was fantastic, though, too, the first guns. The Little Red Book, Chairman Mao Zedong, Thoughts of Chairman Mao Zedong. Huey calls me up one day, he says, Bobby, I know how we can raise some money to get some more shotguns. I says, how, man? He says, the Little Red Book. He says, all over the news. He says, I heard you can buy them at the China bookstore in Frisco. I says, wow, good. How much money you got? I said, I got 40, 50 bucks. Boom. So we run over to the China bookstore. We buy about 100 of these books. Got our guns strapped on our side. I got a 45. Huey's holding a shotgun. Little Bobby got a carbine. We got these little bags hanging on our shoulder with little red books. Get your red books, $1. We will buy them for 20 cents and sell them for $1. Berkeley campus at Xavier's Gate right there. We sold out in a matter of an hour. We took this $100. We go and we buy some more red books. We made about $200, $300. We went around and bought 2 shotguns that day with the little red book. We hadn't even read the thing. I mean, most people think that we came up with this hardcore ideology related to Mao Zedong. must have sold a darn book 2 or 3 months before we started to open the thing and actually read the little damn book. Anyway, next thing I know, I'm marching on the Capitol because we're up there to protest a bill they're trying to put in to keep us from carrying guns. Ronald Reagan is over here on the big front lawn. I got a statement to read.
The Black Panther Party for Self-Defense calls upon the American people in general and the black people in particular to take careful note of the racist California legislature, which is now considering legislation aimed at keeping the black people disarmed and powerless at the very same time racist police agencies throughout the country are intensifying the terror, brutality, murder, and repression of black people.
Ronald Reagan is escorted off the lawn by the state capitol police. I says, we can go inside somewhere. Isn't there a spectator section?
Am I under arrest? Am I under arrest? Am I under arrest? Take your hands off me if I'm not under arrest. I'm telling you to take your hands off me.
They put trumped up charges of conspiracy and felonies on everyone who went in to exercise a constitutional right and said they had no right to bear arms in a public place. The California Penal Code Section 12020 through 12027 and also the Second Amendment of the Constitution guarantees the citizen a right to bear arms on public property.
Our organization is like a social evolutionary accident, so to speak. I mean, when you compare the NAACP from 1908 and other organizations, etc., and all the years they put in to become established, in a matter of 6 months, the Black Panther Party has international notoriety. I mean, we're on the front page of the London Times and in papers in Africa somewhere. We're a broke little organization with a number of shotguns, a very weak treasury, and don't know one word about how to pay the rent. And boom, I mean, we're shocking people. We have probably said to white America, like the people who were observing us when we came in with the guns, are saying, niggas with guns. It's like a fear. I mean, they don't even have to say it. Their faces said it. There's too many niggas with guns. Like they know that they repressed us. And now here we've organized with guns. This is the new step. I mean, it's symbolic that, oh, they're not going to be nonviolent anymore.
On the night of October 28th, 1967, Huey Newton was stopped by police. There was gunfire. Officer Fry was killed, and Huey Newton was arrested for murder. His trial drew the student movement into an alliance with the Black Panthers. Free Huey became our rallying cry.
The organization just propelled it. It took off like a prairie fire. It spread it everywhere, certainly beyond my imagination. After Huey's arrest, that's when things really started rolling.
The Panthers exercised a heavy influence in the imagination of the white left, partly because the white left was confused about who it was and what it ought to do, fascinated by this tough macho image, and they followed it, not so much willfully, but involuntarily, because it was the projection out there of the thing in their own actions that thrilled them most. And we captured the imagination of the white radical left in this country, to a point that its whole identification became connected with what the Black Panther Party was doing, how it was personifying things, and it was like we influenced them in whatever direction we thought that they should go.
I don't like the word suck up, but I would say they were awed by the Panthers. There was something, the Panthers were somehow confronting the white power structure the way they would have liked to have done some of those. And not all. Many of the whites who led the Stop the Draft Week that I had been involved with, many of those people who had been in some parts of early SDS was as skeptical as I was. But no one would, of course, say any of these remarks publicly. I mean, you didn't need that hassle. So what a lot of us did, I think to the detriment of the black movement perhaps, and to the left movement in general, but that a lot of us with many years of political experience and political organizational skills dropped out. If not dropped out, stepped to the side during this period.
UNP Newton is the only leader that black people should recognize. A man who is willing to stand up and face that pig on his own terms. Gun for gun if necessary. This must be done. You cannot sit there and allow that man to be railroaded anymore. You must free our leader. He must be freed, and he will be freed.
2 days after the assassination of Martin Luther King, the war of nerves between the Black Panthers and the Oakland police came to a climax.